Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, college and professional, and all kinds of sports fans across the nation and around the world. This is Tim May with the Tim May Show, featuring Clay Hall's not here. Who the hell are you, man?
I am Matt Gutridge.
Matt Gutridge. By the way, you remember I told you before we started this, we don't curse. As close as we come to cursing is me saying, who the hell are you, man? Matt Gutridge, I've been wanting to have you on my show for a long time. As you know, we have been acquainted for quite a while. We'll get into why that is in a moment. Clay, as the folks who are watching this regularly know, or listening to it on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your favorite podcast. Know for some reason or other, Clay gets to have Fridays off, and so Clay, wherever you are watching and listening. But back to my special guest, Matt Gutridge. See, I know you as being from Sheridan High School, being the special teams coach for the Sheridan High School football team. Is it the Sheridan Generals, by the way? Sheridan?
You are correct. Sheridan Generals.
Yeah. Like
Phil Sheridan.
Phil Sheridan. Was he the Shenandoah Valley guy? Was he the one that laid waste to the Shenandoah Valley in the latter part of the Civil War? But anyway, I digress. Bottom line is, I've got you on, and there's probably a few people tuning in who know who you are, but most people don't. But what you are is you are that mantle, that crutch, that tree that guys in the media or guys in the know in the media can lean on for pertinent, official, and more importantly, of those two, accurate stats when it comes to Ohio State football. And you go, wait a minute, doesn't Ohio State have a guy like that? No, they do not.
Well,
they do not. They haven't had for a while since D.C. Cale passed away, a longtime assistant sports information director there. Got to know him. He was at the first football game I ever covered, was Walnut Ridge versus Whitehall, when I covered for the Columbus Dispatch after I moved up here from Texas and started working part-time at the Columbus Dispatch while I was going to back then it was just the Ohio State University. Now it's the Ohio State University. But got to know him extremely well. I got into like basically helping with the stats in Ohio State football games from that hookup. Help keep defensive stats for 4 or 5 years in a row. Even while I was working at the Dispatch on Saturdays, if I didn't have a game to cover because I wasn't covering Ohio State then,
that's awesome. So
but the funniest thing about that was forgot the game, but Tom Cousineau set the record for most tackles by a Buckeye. I think it was 31 or something back then. I think it was Tom Cousineau.
You think?
Yeah, look on your list there. We're going to go ahead and put your database to good use here. Single game.
Now, you mentioned DC. He's actually was he a Walnut Ridge graduate?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He was a big Walnut Ridge graduate. And don't make fun of him for this. Well, he's passed away anyway. He used to make tapestries and stuff on a loom.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The guy was very interesting in his own right.
Okay. So you said 31 tackles.
Total tackles in a game, single game.
I have him with 29.
Yeah. Oh, excuse me. It was 29.
29.
Yeah.
And that was in 78.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was against it was on September 16th.
Was it against Penn State?
Against Penn State.
Exactly.
You are correct. Good memory. And unfortunately, the Buckeyes didn't win that.
No,
game.
they got
smoked 19-0.
They didn't keep sack stats in, but Art Schleicher was probably sacked 12 times minimum in that game. That was his debut as Ohio State starting quarterback. Was that game? He and Rod Jarrell both went into the game, but Rod Jarrell went to wide receiver, and Art started the game. Pretty much started every game after that through his career.
Now, not to age myself, but I was 2 at that time, so I don't remember that game. But was it kind of like like the Cardale Jones and JT Barrett thing?
As Art would tell you, Google him. No, not quite like that, because this was a little bit like that, except the team knew, who was going. I think Urban might have kept that a secret all the way to the start of the game down at Virginia Tech. But I digress. Bottom line was, me and this other guy keeping the defensive stats, had Tom Cousineau with 26 tackles.
Okay.
But then the coaches who would review the videos or the tapes at night and whatever, they came out with their own number, which was 29. So, as I like to say, I might have missed one or two, but I didn't miss three. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely.
Because we knew how to keep stats, and we knew what counted as being in on a tackle and what counted, as Steve Tovar once put it, a GOP. And we said, GOP? He goes, yeah, jump on pile. Okay, he was a football player.
Well, I was going to say, well, what about JOP?
Yeah, he was a football player, GOP. Bruce Hooley and he was covering the team back then. We laughed our rear ends off on that one. But the bottom line is, I want to get into this with you because Ohio State's relied on you for a while to give them insight on certain records and stuff that come up in games, whether they be season records, career records, single game records. I don't know. Number one, how did you fall into doing that? And by the way, Matt's retired, was a long time. What were you a long time?
Teacher.
And that was at Sheridan also?
It
Sheridan
was,
High School. By the way, one of the great perennial high school programs in the state of Ohio. I told you I watched that special on I think it was WOUB about the longtime coach there whose son took over from him and just kept the train rolling. I mean, you're always going to have a few dips and stuff in high school, especially public high school, but over there in the middle of nowhere. What was it closest to? Thornville? Was it? Yeah.
Yeah. In between Thornville, Somerset, and Glenford.
Yeah. Right there. Just east of Buckeye Lake, right?
Yes.
Yeah. But, and you made a home there and just stayed there, right?
Absolutely.
Because it is a slice of heaven.
Yes.
I played in your scramble golf tournament last year. We won too, didn't we?
I think we did. Yeah.
Yeah. We had a ringer, a former pro at Columbus Country Club playing with us. Of course, he was in his late 70s, but, what was that guy's name?
Gary Taylor. He's known to play at Columbus Country Club a couple of times, and we had you as a ringer.
Yeah, you had me as a ringer. All right, I kept everybody laughing, but we had your son was the true ringer. How could a guy, and no offense to him because he's grown a little, but how could a guy semi-smallish like that, Ian Woosnam kind of looking, not in girth but in height, how can he hit the ball that far?
He has his mom's athletic ability.
Clubhead speed. You're just supposed to say clubhead speed.
Clubhead speed.
And his mom. And his mom. And by the way, that's a pretty good part of the country. Who was it you told me was in that? I was going to say punt, pass, and kick, but the drive, chip, and putt.
You're talking about the Gress boys out of Riverview.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How'd that turn out for them?
He came in second.
Wow. What age group?
I believe the 15-year-olds, the oldest. And they're generational talent, and they swing cross-handed. That's
where it's going.
Yeah.
I think there's too many people experimenting with it now, even on the PGA Tour. Obviously, Matt Fitzpatrick he chips and putts cross-handed, but I think there's somebody who just qualified either on the Corn Ferry or something that hits cross-handed. I'm trying to think who it is, but that's going to be more like soccer-style kicking in football, like 20 years, 30 years from now, because guys do generate some pretty damn good power hitting the ball cross-handed.
Absolutely.
It's going to go from soccer style to, like in football 40 years ago, to kicker. You understand what I'm saying?
I do.
Instead of soccer style kicker, he's just a kicker. The cross-handed guys are going to be, I think there are going to be a few guys who come along and really revolutionize it there, because the way I've read about it and watched videos about it, you can really generate power, but you generate clubhead speed that's off
the charts, and that's where
off the charts,
because that's where you get your distance.
The first three words I thought of there you can't say, at least on my show. But I digress. Bottom line is, what got you into stats, man? I mean, give me the nutshell version.
Always been into sports, always played sports. With sports come stats. And then reading like you and the Dispatch growing up and other guys, you would throw out nice nuggets and being into, trivial questions and stuff like that. Fun things, watching ESPN. There's little sports nuggets that pop up. You're like, where do they come up with this stuff?
Factoids.
Yeah, little factoids, fun things like that. And then getting on the site with 11 Warriors and readers who have questions, and it's just fun looking it up. And then after I did it so much, I was like, why do I keep on looking this stuff up when I can just accumulate it?
What does your analyst say when you ask that person that question? Why do I keep looking stuff up? Or why did I decide to now get an Excel spreadsheet, Sorry. That's my new phones. I'm having them transferred, and they both went off at the same time. That, ladies and gentlemen, that's the first, I think, on a podcast. 2 phones going off with the same alarm, which are my strings I tie around my finger. Instead of that, I just put alarms in my phone.
Well, I think, was it last week or a couple of weeks ago, you went to the place in Hilliard that they helped you out with your phone, right?
Yeah. Well, actually, it was this past week, Batteries Plus. Who knew Batteries Plus could fix cell phones? But now I know that. Anyway, getting back to what I'm asking here, there's one thing about being curious. There's one thing about looking something up, but then there's a whole other set of people who are curious, look stuff up, and then start keeping track of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
On an Excel spreadsheet or whatever you use. Well, what is it about you that makes you want to do that in that regard? Because that's work. That's like, I'm talking to people back in the old days who used to have to do their own tax returns without TurboTax or any of these other ones. That was work.
For me, it's not work. It's fun. It's like, people do things at home that they like doing. Like little ladies like to crochet or whatever. I like to look stats up and put them in the spreadsheet. It's just something fun to do. And knowing that they're accurate and that they're good and we can get them really quickly. I know there's a need there. And, Jerry and Mike helped out Ohio State for a long time and they were awesome at what they did.
Jerry Emig and Mike Bassford.
And there were times where, during a game, they would need to know something like right now.
Yeah.
And even with all the stuff that they had, which they had a lot and they were very good at what they did, there were certain times where you just needed to know right now, what is this? And I was able to fill that void. So that's where it is.
Yeah. I mean, I hope they paid you handsomely. Did they pay you handsomely for that kind of service?
I like helping people out.
Oh, okay. All right. I could use a buck. But I digress. But you started doing it with 11 Warriors. I mean, you're pretty good behind the scenes in that regard. Matter of fact, you let me text you occasionally, or you've texted me occasionally with stuff. And I totally appreciate it because I am not that guy. I am not going to keep a spreadsheet, et cetera, on things, even though you should probably. But for me, every moment's its own moment, the way I look at it. But from an historical perspective thing, that's cool too, except, conditions weren't the same in that game, or, you know what I mean? There's all kinds of ways people can look at numbers. I think numbers can give you a feel for a trend or where things are going. But it is kind of cool to actually say Travion Henderson just beat Archie Griffin's single game rushing record or what it was for a freshman. Remember when that happened, a couple of years ago?
And he was on track for the starts as well.
Yeah. And I think you actually, I think I actually texted with you, or you texted with me there, and then Ohio State also posted it. But I remember texting Archie, and he had a great comment about it, and stuff. And so that's where it really helps and stuff. But as you look through it, I mean, this is what's interesting. There are discrepancies, even when you Google things or look things up in on the broadsheets or whatever. There are occasionally discrepancies. You pointed one out to me a while ago before we started the show about what was it, Rex Kern? What game was that? And he rushed for. There was a discrepancy on what was reported and what he actually rushed for, but then what he was officially credited with in rushing yards. We'll let him. We'll play Jeopardy music while he looks this up. By the way, who's your barber?
That'd be my wife.
That'd be my wife. That'd be my wife, sir.
That and genetics. Genetics were not kind to my head.
That sounds like one of those dating game shows or one of the newlywed shows.
But yeah, no. So you were asking about the Rex Kern, and that was in '69. The box score for the game.
What game? Do you remember the game? Was it Illinois? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Go ahead.
It was in '69, and the box score had him with 193 yards.
Yeah.
On 23 carries, but the official stats later had him with
183, I think.
Yes, 183, and that was the passing. He completed 12 of 23 passes for 193 in the box score.
Yeah.
But then in the official stats, they had him as 12 of 23 for 183 yards. And I know that's it's minute stuff, but when it comes down to it, and
back then it wasn't. That was
no,
10 yards was
yes.
huge passing yardage
Yes.
for Ohio State back then. Go
Yes, and the Golden Gale himself, it's like, hey,
Yeah.
those 10 yards are huge. But more importantly, though, is just like it comes down to the official team stats and then his official career stats. It's like, which one is correct?
Yeah.
Is it the box score or is it the official stats? And it should be the official stats, which I'm sure they go with.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things. And it's interesting because you look at his stats, the team stats, you just want to make sure things match up.
Yeah.
And most of the time they do. But you do find some little discrepancies on there.
And then fingers crossed, I have fingers crossed, I'm not shooting the finger. They didn't have a typo when they put out the official stats.
Well, and that happens a lot too. Typos
Heck yeah, it does.
and just simple math.
Yes.
Sometimes adding things up, you have a number and you add up all the numbers that they had for the official stats, and that total is different than what's in there. And sometimes it's like you said, it's a typo or just simple math, which I'm not very good at.
What is the coolest or wow moments you've had? I know, folks, we'll get to some really good stuff here in a minute, but what is the biggest or most wow moment you've had when you've double checked something or looked back in history trying to make sure this is correct from a stat standpoint, one that still stands out in your mind, like finding a gold nugget sitting right next to your tires you pull out of the parking lot? I mean, what is that moment where you kind of went, wow, this has been wrong for a long time?
Oh, you're talking about something that's been wrong.
Well, maybe not a long time, but just you researched it and you go, patch me through the rewrite.
Well, one of those is the 97 game against Wyoming. The online stat book only went to the first half. They only had one half in there. But I believe that the official stats are good, but I just know that on the online section of it, there's only one half in.
Yeah.
But if you look at the official stats for the entire season, I think that they're good. But
that was about as boring a season opener as I ever remembered.
Yeah, that was been August of 97.
Yeah, was that the Eddie Robinson game? It was something. Yeah. And I think Eddie was here, if I remember correctly. But that was about as boring a football game as Number two, Wyoming has some of the boringest uniforms known to man. Their road unis are only more bored. The only thing more boring about their unis than their road unis was their home unis with that brown. I don't know who opted to go to brown. Even the Browns never went to brown, yeah, which is pretty funny.
Stay away from their browns.
Yeah, but anyway, but I digress. Well, let's get into something here.
Okay.
Ohio State's is several months away from starting a brand new college football season. What are some stats that are hanging out there right now, like fresh fruit, hanging on a tree? They're about to be plucked.
A really easy one is the all-time wins. They're sitting at 990, and they're 10 away from 1,000, which would make them the second team to get to that plateau. We're not going to talk about the other team.
Behind whom?
I'm not saying.
Yeah, well, ladies and gentlemen, close your ears. That's Michigan. Now open your ears. The team up north. For those aficionados. The bottom line is, though, but even that has an asterisk.
Oh, yeah, big asterisk. With the
how big an asterisk would you say? Like 3 inches?
Yeah. For me, again, I don't have to worry about
the asterisk, ladies and gentlemen, is Tatgate.
Yes.
2010. Let's talk about it a little bit. I mean, Ohio State, like you say, if they have a regular season, they're probably going to win at least 10 games. You've got to figure. Tough schedule coming up. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But the bottom line is they can get to 1,000. Second team in history to do that. Second program in history to do that. But they're actually, if their wins had been counted from the 2010 season, it'd be 1,002. They're already there in terms of actual games played. That you can't take back the fact that guys gave up bruises, teeth, blood, etc., and won 12 games, and I think it was in 2010. And then Tatgate was revealed at the end of the 2010 season. But there's an interesting caveat even to the fact that the NCAA Committee on Infractions made them forfeit 12 games from their official tally, which you have followed suit because that's what matters is the official tally. But no, they actually played those games.
Right. And what's worse is that they even approved some of the players for the Sugar Bowl
They
against
approved all
Arkansas.
of them.
They said, Ohio State said, "Hey, are we allowed to play in this? Are the players allowed to play? Yes and yes." Then they
Wait,
play
let's
it,
give
and then
people
they take it away.
background. Let's give people background. Tadgate was revealed after Ohio State beat Michigan that year, and then they allowed the 5 players, one of which was Terrell Pryor. Was it 5 or 7? Might have been. Anyway, at least 5. Boom Herron, DeVere Posey. They allowed those guys, DeVere Posey, wide receiver, Boom Herron, running back, Terrell Pryor, quarterback. Although he did start at wide receiver against Texas in the Fiesta Bowl, so he wouldn't have to come to official media functions. That's another story. But the bottom line was they allowed them to play in that game for the sanctity of the BCS.
Right. They wanted the money for the bowl game.
Right. They didn't want to hurt the ratings or all kinds of things. They can say they didn't want to hurt us. No. Usually when you're found guilty of something, they had already deemed them guilty. See, the NCAA finds you guilty, and then you have to prove you're innocent, as opposed to the way the other system works. I think, the United States of America. But the bottom line is they got to play in that game, and then late in the year of 2011, they took those wins away, all 12 of them, including the win over Arkansas. Was that Ryan Mallett? Is that the quarterback?
Yes, Ryan.
Yeah.
Yep.
Ohio State beat an SEC school, by the way. They took those wins away from them. And of course, Terrell Pryor left school when it came a time when he was probably going to have to sit in front of the NCAA Committee on Infractions and answer questions or forfeit his college career. He opted to leave. But the point is, like you said, they should let at least one of those games count, which was the win over Arkansas.
Absolutely, yeah.
How do you square that as a statistician?
Well,
I'll sit back and wait for your answer.
Officially, you have to go by what the NCAA has, and that is that those games don't count. So they've been forfeited, not forfeited, but
see, in the record of Ohio State, not the NCAA, like I said, they played those games.
They did, but officially they're not allowed to count.
I know,
them.
Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy, and if they did, Ohio State would have had its 1,000th win on November 15th of last season against UCLA. That would have been the 1,000th win.
Cause for celebration. There might have even been a parade.
But instead, we get to delay it to this year, hopefully, and you guys can write up about it and talk about it and have the whole build up for the 1,000th win. And hopefully it's the 10th game of the year.
By the way, my microphone arm here is going limp. I don't know what that means. It's starting to sag on me. I don't know what that means.
There are pills for that.
But it is interesting because you got a schedule coming up this year. Most people consider it the toughest schedule in the country. As you look at things, because I know you analyze things, you don't just look at numbers, you analyze things. Do you agree this has on paper, as we sit here in May, to be the toughest schedule in the country in Division I football?
It's going to be hard. I mean, I don't know for sure.
Well, that's quite definitive.
I don't know for sure if it's the toughest in the country itself.
Yeah, but
it's definitely one of the most difficult out there for sure. And I can't think of an Ohio State schedule in recent memory that has as many loaded teams on it. Second week of the year going out to Texas. Of course, that's difficult. Everybody knows about that.
Yeah,
you can't sleep on Illinois. I'm a child of the '90s. We remember what happened with Cooper in those years and Eddie George and all the rest. I'm not going to make this a downer day.
No.
Iowa is always hard, especially at Iowa. Indiana is Indiana now. I mean, who saw that coming? This is reminiscent of 87, 88. Here we go again. At USC, perennial program. Yep. Again, they've been down a little bit, but
they've been incrementally getting better.
Yes.
Keep reminding, and the game is at, like you said, USC.
And then follow that up with Oregon coming into Columbus.
Yep.
I mean, what's that? 4 or 5 games right there that could be losses.
And they also play the team up north.
They finished that off. Yeah. Regular season off with them.
Yes, I whispered that just so your hair wouldn't fall out. Too late. Of those games, which one's the pothole game? I always like to use the word pothole. Pothole is you're driving down on a rainy day and the pothole is filled up with water, think you're clear, and then at the last second, bam, blowout, dagnabbit, blowout. Quick, what movie? A Christmas Story. Dagnabbit, blowout. Except I didn't say fudge. What's the pothole game of those 5 that we talked about? Michigan's always a big time game.
Iowa and USC are the ones that are jumping out to me, and I'd probably say USC more so than Iowa because I mean the Buckeyes do have Illinois at home, and then they'll be ready for. I would hope they'd be ready for that trip to Kinnick in the pink locker room. Is it still pink?
Yeah, it depends on what you call pink.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, the last time I was there, I went in the locker room a couple times just to make sure everybody wasn't in on the wives' tale. But yeah, they were pink.
But yeah, that USC
the urinals,
game, they
the toilets, everything's pink.
Yeah, the USC.
It's hard to even get a pink toilet, I would think. But go ahead now. What? The USC game?
I think the 50s they had a lot of pink toilets and pink sinks back in the 50s.
Yeah, you're probably right. But that had to be special.
But order. I wasn't alive back then, so I don't know.
That had to be a special order. But going back to, you think USC is going to be, because that's a game. Let's face it. It's almost a game. Lincoln Riley. I don't think Lincoln Riley's going anywhere. People were getting him fired 2 years ago, and I didn't see it happening because it was going to cost him a lot of money.
Well, and when you bring this up, that's one of those things on why I do this spreadsheet thing, because we were just talking about USC, and when's the last time Ohio State won at USC? Do you know?
At USC. They have not won at USC since I've been covering them.
Okay.
I don't think they've beaten USC since I've been covering them, since 1984. So it had to be their last win over USC. Was it in the Rose Bowl?
Cotton Bowl.
Oh, yeah, they have beaten USC.
Tim.
Sam Darnold.
There you go.
Oh, my goodness. I was just talking about Sam Darnold the other day and how Ohio State tattooed him. That should have been a tattoo gate right there. That's right. Sam Darnold in the Cotton Bowl.
But no, when was the last time Ohio State won at USC?
I do not know the answer.
Okay. And that is?
Boom, boom, boom,
about 1946.
Post-war period, baby. It was sweet living in Ohio then. Everything was resurging.
Yeah.
And so was the Ohio State football team.
Yeah, it was October 5th, 1946. That was when USC was in the Pacific Coast, the Pac-12, the old Pac-12. The Buckeyes shut them out 21-0.
Actually, it was it was either the Pac-6 or the Pac-8 at that point.
That's true.
Way back then.
Yeah, before the Pac-12, Pac-10, Pac-8, Pac-6. Yeah, you're correct on that.
And then obliteration. And now they're back.
1946. So who was Ohio State's coach then?
The Ohio State coach in 46, was that the guy that ended up, I don't think Wes Fessler was there yet, was he?
He was not.
It was the guy that ended up quitting, I think, and going to Ohio University. What was his name?
Give you his initials, PB.
No, Paul Brown was not the head coach in 46.
No.
Oh, I don't know. What was
Paul Bixler?
Oh, yeah, Paul Bixler.
Yeah.
Am I right about that, though? Did he end up going to Ohio University? I can't remember. They had a couple of guys during that period who did not want the job.
Oh, absolutely not.
And then Wes Fessler came along. Isn't it funny how Paul Brown is in Ohio State history forever, because that's when they won their first national championship during World War II.
Right, the 42 team, and that team had its loss because of the war, and they were in the train that had the bad water, which gave the team dysentery.
Yes.
And then they lost at Wisconsin because they all had I won't use the bad word, they had the runs.
Well, even dysentery, you go, that's got to be something bad. That's got to be something bad with fluids involved. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the word dis is in it. That's
yeah,
bad.
yeah, in Terry. But the bottom line is then Wes Fessler came along, and what does he do? He goes and they win the Rose Bowl after the 49 season, right? I have that right? 49 season, they won the Big Ten, and then they went to the Rose Bowl. Wes Fessler, head coach.
Yes.
Yeah. And he comes back and loses the Snow Bowl in 50. And boom, he decides, I don't need the pressure here anymore, even though he was an alum, and ends up resigning. And I think ends up finally at Minnesota. And there was a big push to rehire Paul Brown by some folks, but another faction wanted anybody but Paul Brown. Paul Brown, of course, had helped found the Cleveland Browns at that point. I think they were still in the AAFC, the All-American Football Conference. And then I'm not sure when they exactly joined the NFL, but because, Cleveland had the Cleveland Rams, which became the Los Angeles Rams, and the Browns. at the same time. But the bottom line was they ended up going with a compromise candidate, a guy named Woody Hayes.
Right. The guy from
Kinda
Miami of Ohio and Denison and old New Philadelphia.
Yeah, kind of like what happened when Ohio State hired Jim Tressel. Because a lot of people thought it was going to be Glenn Mason was going to be the next head coach at Ohio State. Glenn Mason even thought that. All of us guys in the media thought that. And then I remember telling Jim Tressel the second night, because he would talk to me every night on the phone late in the evening. I think he was just, obviously getting the lay of the land. I didn't mind giving him the lay of the land because, a scoop is a scoop, right? And and I told him second night, I said, Jim, I want to tell you, the way I've got this figured out, you're going to be the next head coach at Ohio State unless somebody comes out of left field. And the guy that kind of came out of left field for Andy Geiger was Mike Bellotti at Oregon. And there are all kinds of wives' tales about what happened when they interviewed Mike Bellotti, but they still wanted him. And Mike Bellotti ended up turning the job down, or at least declining. Let's put it that way. Whether it was formally offered, they like to go on like a nuance there, so they can, claim somebody didn't turn down this great hallowed job. But then they named Jim Tressel. But Tressel also told me at one point, he thought Mason, as he called him Mace, thought Glenn Mason was going to be the favorite for the job. I said, no, Andy Geiger is not going to hire Glenn Mason. And he goes, why is that? Because Andy Geiger, I truly believe, is not going to be told by others who to hire. Meaning, I'm going to hire my guy. I'm going to hire the guy that I think is the best fit. Meaning, he didn't want to be told what to do. You follow my drift?
Oh,
by the
absolutely.
powers that be. You know what we mean by powers that be. And so he hired Jim Tressel, and the rest is history, including Tatgate.
Right.
So we've circled back to that. All right. Next big record coming up. Jeremiah Smith is 300 and what yards away from being, not from tying, but going ahead and being the all-time career pass receiving yardage record holder at The Ohio State University. I think you said 340 in a production meeting. See, I thought all these things were at your fingertips. Or right on the dendrites, right on the end of the dendrites in your brain. But
Tim, I am not a legend like you. Things are not at the tip of my brain.
Well, that doesn't mean everything.
That's why I have this computer. But yes,
that doesn't mean everything I just said is true.
He is 340 yards away, and that's from tying Michael Jenkins, who, as we know from Holy Buckeye and the great run that he had in the early 2000s. But yeah, he's 340 away from Jenkins. He's currently 8th. Next on the list is Marvin Harrison Jr., Chris Olave, Chris Carter, Egbuka, Gary Williams, a guy that people don't talk about a lot, David Boston, and then Michael Jenkins. So there are some big names coming up here this year that Smith should be passing up.
See, I contend that when we talk about wide receiver university, we all think it started for some reason, with the Brian Hartline era.
Right.
No, wrong. I mean, they didn't. When we call it WRU, it's become a major at Ohio State. You know what I mean? There are more people in the curriculum than were in it, because usually you had one really good receiver and another pretty good receiver. But Ohio State's been having great receivers since I've been covering the team, because that was the freshman year of a guy named Chris Carter. But before that, even Gary Williams. But Gary Williams set the record, I think, for consecutive games catching a pass.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I did our sidebar story on him, and I think it was done when Ohio State was playing at Northwestern, if I remember correctly, way back when. I think it was 1981. Maybe I'm wrong on the date. But the bottom line is they've had a pretty damn good receiver through the years. They just didn't utilize them. I mean, Paul Warfield was a halfback.
Right.
At Ohio State.
Hall of Fame wide receiver.
That's the only way. Yeah. So if they had counted catching pitch outs, he might have a few more catches at Ohio State. Then of course, he and Chris Carter, I don't know why I'm whispering this. I think he and Chris Carter are the only two wide receivers from Ohio State in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I'm right about that, aren't I? Yeah, they'd have to be right. Yeah. Yeah, it has to be right. We say it's right. Now you're going to go Google it and look it up. But that is interesting. But Ohio State's had great receivers, sure-handed, big-time guys. Terry Glenn, dude, for one season, as good as actually.
That 95 season is
actually about
ridiculous.
8 or 9 games until he played at Minnesota and sort of dislocated his shoulder. That 95 season was crazy. But those first 8 or 9 games, he was as good as anybody who's ever been here. Write that down. I stand by that statement. Gosh, he came out of nowhere and then ended up in the NFL, was a first-round draft pick, if I remember correctly, part of that 95 group that left.
Well, when he left in 95, he was the program leader in receiving yards for a season. For a
season. I still remember that picture of Joe Paterno looking up at him, that picture of him looking at Terry Glenn as he soared into the sky to make that catch.
And what's even nuttier is he averaged 22 yards a catch that year.
Yeah.
I mean,
crazy.
He had 64 catches and averaged 22 yards for every single catch.
Yeah.
And I remember that Pitt game out at in Pittsburgh up on that hill. I went to that one with a buddy of mine who's a Pitt fan. And that was a fun ride there and back. He was talking a little bit on the way out. And it was a really quiet ride on the way back home.
Yeah.
Because Buckeyes destroyed them that day.
Then they got them again in 96, right? I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like 72-0 or whatever it was. Yep. They put Pitt and Rice in the same pot and boiled them.
But I think Rice actually scored on Ohio State.
Yeah, I think it was 70-7 or something stupid.
Yep.
70-3 or something. But yeah, I like that line. They put a Panther and the Rice in the same pot and boiled them up. Nice. Bottom line is, as good a receiver as there ever was for a span of 8 or 9 games for the Ohio State University. But then run them down the line. I mean, see what I was getting to here is I think one of the most underrated or forgotten about guy whenever you start naming receivers I don't know. Who would you put on that list? Who would you say is? I say Michael Jenkins. Because Michael Jenkins had the catch.
Right, he had the Holy Buckeye. In the catch in the national championship game on 4th and 12.
Then on 4th down, he had the catch.
The catch, yes.
I mean, he was about as clutch as it came. And by the way, I've always said Craig Krenzel was about as clutch a quarterback as I've ever seen played at Ohio State. I'm talking about making plays when plays needed to be made. He wasn't, he wasn't prolific throwing the ball, but maybe he could have been if they'd thrown the ball a little bit more. But Craig Krenzel put the ball in the money when it needed to be. And but yeah, Michael Jenkins kept the drive going. Before what was the name? Terry Portergate, right. in Miami circles, the guy who threw the pass interference call on the pass intended for Chris Gamble in the corner.
I mean, to say at the
pylon,
an Ohio State receiver has been forgotten about that's kind of tough because they're all.
No, I'm just
great,
saying when people start naming,
Santonio Holmes is one that I think kind of falls through the cracks sometimes.
Amen.
Santonio Holmes.
Yeah. And we remember his ridiculous Super Bowl catch for the winning touchdown. But the bottom line, that's what I'm saying. You start naming guys and you leave them out, and that doesn't mean anything because all these guys were great in their own respects. That's what gets me. But now to think that Jeremiah Smith in 3 seasons, I mean, actually in 2 seasons and probably 3 games, I got a feeling he could be the all-time receiving yardage record holder career-wise in Ohio State history. That's crazy when you think about that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. What else stands out about his stats? I mean, what does he have to do in terms of career catches? He's probably not going to break that record. Emeka Egbuka has that, and that brings us to another guy who is forgotten about from North Little Rock, Arkansas. You know who I'm talking about?
One KJ Hill.
I remember him strutting into the end zone in that catch at Penn State for that come from behind victory. He looked like the drum major from Tabiddle, the best damn band in the land, strutting into the end zone. His feet kicking high, etc. But very underrated when you start naming guys who got the job done. Let's put it that way. Spectacular. Rarely was he spectacular, but was he consistent? Absolutely. And so that's an interesting little book you got there of all those receivers, man. I mean, just looking at the list, right? Who else on that list? Does anybody else pop out at you, or somebody Jameson Williams is claiming he was underutilized at Ohio State, all this kind of stuff. I'm not going to say baloney because somebody's got to be the guy to run the route to clear it out for everybody else, a clearing route. But what do you think about that? What do you think about Jameson Williams? Where does he fit? Talking to the
as far as stats and records and stuff, I mean, we have to go single season.
And that would be at Alabama when he was at Alabama.
That'd be at Alabama. I mean, he didn't have the big years at Ohio State. He just didn't have that choice. I mean, you saw him go over the top, and he had the speed, all the speed in the world.
Yeah.
And you saw the talent.
Yeah.
It was just a matter of at Ohio State and even at Alabama as well. It's a matter of you have one ball.
Yeah.
And you have how many playmakers.
Yeah.
And how many guys get to touch the ball each play.
I remember after the national championship game, Alabama had already put out the word that they needed to take the top off the defense wide receiver in the portal because Devontae Smith was leaving. He just won the Heisman Trophy. And I don't know what you would call that back then. I don't even know if that's tampering or not. But, when you put out the shingle that you need help needed,
right.
Then what is it? But the bottom line is Jameson Williams answered the ad. I'm just making that up. Answered the ad aspect of things, obviously. But it would have been interesting to see if he had stayed for his last year at Ohio State, where that would have gone. But
it does hurt to say it. He did.
Right.
It appears he made the right choice by going to Alabama.
Oh, absolutely
and
he did. But see, I wouldn't sit around now and gripe about it. I wouldn't sit around now and say, boy, Ohio State left something. You know who they left fruit on the tree was with Ted Ginn Jr.
Absolutely.
That guy, that was totally underutilized. I've even told Jim Trussell that a few times. The guy was totally underutilized. When you look at how few times he touched the ball from scrimmage. I did a stat on it one time. It was less than 5 times a game. It was like 4-point-something times a game. Maybe the most dangerous player in college football. And but they did get a lot out of him, including a kickoff return. They put him ahead of Florida 7-0. And then, of course, he gets tackled by his own buddy, Roy Hall, in the end zone, suffers a high ankle sprain, and that's the end of Ted Ginn junior career at Ohio State, and the end of Ohio State's hopes of beating Urban Meyer in Florida.
And that's another.
Would we have ever heard of Urban Meyer at Ohio State if Ted Ginn Jr. had not gotten hurt? All these little questions you can ask.
That's a
yourself.
great what if, and I love the what ifs because you mentioned the Ginn injury. The guy I coached with at Sheridan, Paul, whose dad, Paul Culver Jr., and then Paul Culver III, who I coach with, is a friend of mine.
Yeah.
We had that discussion of how big of an injury was that? How much of a difference did that make in that game?
I asked Urban Meyer that very question.
And some people would argue, well, Florida's defensive line was able to get past the offensive line. That defense was too good. It didn't matter.
I asked Urban Meyer that same question. And he said, well, imagine us losing Percy Harvin on the first play.
Exactly.
And he's right, because Ohio State had things planned for Ted Ginn Jr. for that game. And he was, that was where the myth started that, well, maybe not myth, I don't know what you'd call it, that the Southeastern Conference had faster guys than the Big Ten. Well, on that night, the fastest guy, well, it did take him 11 seconds or so to run that 100 yards or something, that kickoff return. But the fastest guy left the field after the first play.
And then that changed Ohio State's philosophy. It took away the over-the-top guy like Jameson Williams. It took all that stuff away.
Yep.
And Florida's defense didn't have to worry about it. And then once you take that off, that's where it all got railroaded.
Where were they left
Again, it's a great what if. Not saying that Ohio State would have won, but it's a great what if.
I think we're left with, for the most part, Anthony Gonzalez and even Brian Hartline. But they just couldn't get the running game going on a consistent basis. They did get it going a little bit in the first half. And then, of course, that 4th and 1 where the guy scraped down the line of scrimmage and caught Beanie Wells in the backfield because the left tackle couldn't even touch him. That was the play of the game, because if Beanie Wells had gotten to the line of scrimmage, he might have gone 15 yards before anybody touched him on that play. And it was totally anti-Trussell ball to do that. All these things go through your brain. But all these things go through coaches' brains and players' brains when this segment of your attack is no longer available, et cetera. Yeah, it was an interesting exercise in all kinds of ways, but it really started the Urban Meyer myth. Legend.
Yes. And
they won a national championship.
Does he come here?
They won a national championship, and then 2 years later, they won it again. And then he got out of coaching for a year, sabbatical, and lo and behold, Ohio State. He was born in Toledo, raised in Ashtabula. He was a GA at Ohio State back in the mid-'80s, was here when on Earl Bruce's staff for 2 years, and was here when Earl Bruce got fired and went looking for a job, ended up at Illinois State, I think, under Jim Haycock, who was the head coach at Illinois State then, and then eventually ended up at Colorado State and then Notre Dame and blah, blah, blah. He's back in business.
And Jim Haycock's out of my neck of the woods. I believe he's a Muskingum University graduate.
Yeah. John Haycock, longtime defensive coordinator for Matt Campbell at Iowa State. I think he's retired now. I think he just retired instead of going with Matt Campbell possibly to Penn State. But the bottom line is, yeah, all these little things, if and buts,
Right.
Just like if Marvin Harrison Jr. doesn't get hurt on that illegal hit that was reversed, it ended up not even being a personal foul against Georgia. How would that have changed the shape of the future? The Big Ten might have won. That might now be sitting on four straight national championships.
4 straight. And Day would have his second.
Yeah. And Day would have had his second. But, or if the call had not been reversed against Clemson in 2019 in the Fiesta Bowl, the semifinal against Clemson, the Jeffrey Okuda strip and the Jordan Fuller scoop and score.
Absolutely.
That's not in your record book because it never happened. But
we all saw it.
But it did. But some official watching the replay said it wasn't a fumble, even though he took 3-4 steps with the ball like this, ladies and gentlemen.
But you're not bitter.
I'm not bitter at all. I don't care. But the bottom line is it was a bad call.
Absolutely.
As Dan Fouts said about the Terry Porter call in the end zone against Miami, bad call. I even did that impression for him. I said, my sons do an impression of you. He goes, what is it? I said, well, they're big Ohio State fans. Their impression of you is bad call. He started laughing. That way he was over to Indianapolis for something when they were honoring Pro Football Hall of Fame members before an Indy 500 one time. But anyway, I digress. What else is on your agenda there? What else stands out? That could pop.
Yeah.
That could pop this year.
Well, as far as that goes, he's also, you mentioned the receptions. He's there. Emeka Egbuka has 205, and Jeremiah is entering the season with 163.
Yeah.
So he's only 42 away. I don't want to say only 42 away. 42 catches is a lot, but with a player of that talent, and I think it's pretty known this is going to be his last year. I think they're going to try to feed it to him.
Yeah, the possibility of playing maybe a minimum 14 games.
Yeah, so that's there.
Yeah, yeah. Any other individual? How about Julian Sayin, his freshman year? His first year as a starter. How did that stack up in your annals as you look at him there? From the standpoint of just single season throwing the ball. Well, you got to look at a lot of guys now. You didn't used to have to look at a lot of guys until Ryan Day came along to find that stat. But, and Julian, of course, a Heisman finalist last year. I really do believe if they get the puzzle solved at right guard, this is going to be one of the great Ohio State offense. Let me put it this way. One of the more potent, maybe the most potent Ohio State offense in history. It has the chance to be that because it has everything. If, in fact, the offensive line has gotten figured out by the time they go to Texas. But go ahead.
No, you're fine. Like last year, he finished the season as Ohio State's with the highest completion percentage of any Ohio State quarterback for a single season ever.
Yes. Yeah.
He finished.
Well, that's pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's okay. and as you mentioned, it's the Ryan Day show because who's right behind him?
Yeah.
Will Howard.
And
then who's behind him? C.J. Stroud. And then Justin Fields.
Really? And where's Dwayne?
Right behind Justin Fields.
Them. You talk about getting incrementally better.
And then who's behind Haskins?
J.T. Barrett.
Justin Fields. Oh. Because, again, it's for a single season.
Yeah.
And then C.J. Stroud again.
Yeah.
And then Kyle McCord.
Really? Kyle McCord. He left his mark, sort of.
Yeah.
Interesting. Hey, let's talk about this real quick before we're done. I really appreciate having you on. I appreciate you coming in all the way on I-70, which can be a slog, depending on the construction project du jour. Bottom line is, I keep telling everybody, I keep saying this, since the mid-90s, this is the golden era of Ohio State football without a doubt. What's your take on that?
I agree.
Why would you hesitate there?
Well, because you're going through the annals and you have to go through the Woody Hayes years and
right.
And which stretches were there that you could say were the golden age as well.
I wouldn't see the 60s are interesting. The 60s, 61, they were voted for by the Football Writers or something as a national champion. But we all know Alabama was a national champion that year under Bear Bryant. They went undefeated and beat Arkansas in the Sugar Bowl. That's before Arkansas was in the SEC. Don't ask me why I know all that. And then 68, the great team with Rex Kern, the Super Softs, and 69 70. So, yeah, that was pretty. But those mid-60s was a tough time.
Yeah.
There was the banner flying over the stadium in 67, get rid of Woody.
No, you're right. And I've had that thought of, how blessed have we been since. And I understand Cooper had his issues with Michigan and finishing bowl games and all that.
But just win-loss record.
And
he's the second winningest coach in Ohio State history.
Absolutely. And there are some other things that could have led to those losses, but we won't go down to that. I digress.
Yes.
Starting around 1996, 95 through today, the last 32 years, this is an incredible run.
Nobody beats them, especially since 2001. Nobody beats them. And I'm not sure people appreciate it but since 2001, they've won 3 national championships, right?
Yes.
And everybody bemoans the ones they should have won, like 19, like in 22, when they could have, would. I mean, you could name about 5 there. And in the 90s, 96, 98, even 95, they were right there, and they lose to Michigan, at Michigan. I just think you ought to rejoice the fact they've won 3 in the last 25 years. That's pretty damn good. And they've been in contention for it, for 25 years for the most part.
Yeah.
So I'm asking you, a historian, when you look at it, it looks like the golden age. If you were looking at just numbers, I'm talking about Ohio State, not compared to anybody else, but just Ohio State football. How would this not be the golden age?
You're right. It is.
Is that all you got to say about it?
That's you've covered it, Tim. You covered
what stands out most about it? Just the pure consistency of winning.
The pure consistency of winning, the double-digit wins. I mean, I understand they're playing more games now, but when's the last time Ohio State didn't have 10 wins in a season?
Yeah. And who do we just named off?
That would have been 2011. And why was that? Because you had the whole turnover of what we talked about, the Tatgate and all that stuff.
Yeah.
You take that out. When was the last time they didn't win 10 games? It's crazy. And that goes back to this year. Could this be a year that they don't get 10 wins in the regular season?
Yeah. And it's funny, even in 2011, they could have won at Purdue. They should have won at Nebraska, but Braxton Miller got hurt. Just run them down the line. Of course, they did beat Wisconsin in a miraculous game. That was cool, beating Russell Wilson in Wisconsin. He went on to win a Super Bowl. Do you remember that? I think you do. I think you do.
I'm a Seattle fan.
What I'm getting to here is I just say this. I mean, it's okay to be upset when your team has a chance at a national championship and doesn't get it done. But there are so many that don't ever have the shot, whatever. And the quality of football being played at Ohio State the last quarter century is off the chart. It really is off the chart. And, but that's the legacy. I mean, you have to live up to the legacy. Like Ryan Day said, he accepts it. You're expected to win every game. And so we'll see what happens this year. What's your take on this year's team before we move on?
Before we get to that, you mentioned a lot of stuff there. And part of the last 25 years, too, you were talking about the golden age. Just look at the NFL draft and what the Buckeyes have been doing in the NFL draft. I mean, that says it right there. And it's a lot of it's the last 25 years of holy crap.
Yes. Including this past year. Holy crap.
Yeah. This year's team, offensive line, again, it's football. Offensive and defensive lines control the game.
Yeah.
If the offensive line can control the game, and you have saying if he can keep his percentage up, if they can feed Jeremiah Smith, if the younger receivers step up, it could be a very, very, very good team. Another question is with the defense and all the new guys. Trust Patricia. Matt Patricia shows he knows what he's doing, of course. But when you have new players, again, Jimmys and Joes, are the new Jimmys and Joes going to be able to step up like the last guys did?
Yeah.
At Ohio State, they do.
Yeah.
But those are some of the question marks going into this year. But yeah, offensive, defensive line. That's where it always is.
Yeah, it always is. I mean, it always is.
Now I've got a question.
Wait. One more question.
Okay.
So, put Ryan Day in perspective. We talked about. I mean, give him from some historical perspective of where he is from a one-loss situation, because that's the bottom line. We can talk about all these other things. The fact he modernized, took the Ohio State passing game and then modernized it, starting in 2017, when he first showed up. And we, like you just read off the top percentage, the top percentage completion percentages for quarterbacks are all his guys. Some of them double dipped. Crazy when you think about that. So not only are they throwing the ball more, basically, for the most part. Obviously, last year they were ball controlling, trying to run the clock, and didn't run as many plays, et cetera, trying to play the long game to keep guys as fresh as possible for the postseason. But they still were quite consistent on throwing the ball from A to B and it being caught. You got to give them credit for that. But where do you just put him in getting the job done, handling the pressure? Obviously, no banner was flying over the stadium in 2024 for that Tennessee game, but some people might have sprung for one if the game wasn't at night. That was like the pregame ceremony for the kickoff, before the kickoff of the BCS national title game in 2006. They opened the roof at the University of Phoenix Stadium there in Glendale, Arizona. They had a flyover. It was the B-2 bomber, stealth bomber. You couldn't see it,
right?
And you couldn't hear it until it was gone. Anyway, so what's your answer there? On where do you put Ryan Day in the perspective of just what he has done so far, his win percentage, et cetera?
Well, I mean,
numbers man.
Well, he's there with Urban Meyer as far as after 7 years. Him and Urban Meyer are the
yeah.
Two,
but what are their
years.
Percentages? Does that come up in front of you?
Yeah, I got you. So
you can't count on your toes. You can only use your fingers.
So Ryan Day's won 93.6% of his games. He's only had a maximum of 2 losses per season.
Is that good?
That's pretty good. 79-12 over 7 years. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
And
Urban was
talking about the 7-year mark. Urban was 86-9. He only had 9 losses, so he had 3 less losses.
Yeah.
But his winning percentage was 94%.
Yeah.
So I mean, they're right there neck and neck. And you could also argue that Day played against some better teams than what Meyer did.
Yeah.
The Big Ten's changed. And Urban's the reason for it, of changing the landscape of the quality of the Big Ten.
Yes.
When he arrived, it wasn't quite what it is today.
No.
So you can make that argument that Day's...
He'd have kept his mouth shut.
Absolutely. You can make the argument that Day's, even though he has 3 more losses and doesn't have quite the winning percentage after 7 years, it might be a little bit more impressive considering what he has to go through to get there.
Yeah. And the other thing is, he's... Now in the playoff era, he's facing more jeopardy. Although, obviously Urban won the national championship in 2014, the first year of the 4-team college football playoff. He only got one more shot at it, which was 16. The 15 team should have been in it.
Absolutely.
That was a better team than the 14 team, but didn't get that shot. But now, it's like you said, they're in the CFP more often than not, and now they're really going to be in it forever. With maybe the move to 24, that's crazy.
And you and Clay talked about this a couple of shows ago. So if you were the king of college football, well, how would you?
I would. You know what? If you're bound and determined it's going to be more than 12, and how it got to 12 makes no sense. Should have moved to 8, gone for 4 or 5 years, see how that flows, and then move on from there. I don't remember any clamor except from the Southeastern Conference, and I guess the Big Ten now, because they're the ones pushing for 24, or they were the real motor behind 24, Petiti, et cetera. But it would move from 12 to 16. Why would you jump suddenly to 24?
Right.
Makes no sense. They're going to play the third 8's going to play the second 8, probably home at the home of the second 8's, and the winners are going to play. If I had my way, the winners would play at the homes of the top 8, which is the way to make money and make sure there's crowds there. And then you move into the quarterfinals. Do I have that right? Yeah. Wait a minute. Yeah. Be 8 winners. You move into the quarterfinals at bowl spots like they're going. I'm sure they'll do that.
Would you stay with that, or would you change that?
Well, here's the thing.
I mean, you're the king. You get to do what you want.
I know. Well, no. Because I like to be realistic about stuff. they have tried to keep the bowl games included because the bowl games ended up being a financial godsend for college football way back when. And so you don't just throw them out. The problem with bowl games is when they're scheduled. They're part of the New Year's extravaganza.
Right.
And so if you could talk several more to be willing to move off of that New Year's, then I would play my quarterfinals the 2 days after Christmas or 3 days after Christmas. And, you can cry the fact that those teams won't be home. It'll only be 8 teams that wouldn't be home for Christmas. Well, they could probably still be home for Christmas and then go to the games like it's a road game, maybe one extra day there, and play those games and then play the semifinals the end of the first week of January, and then play the next game, the championship game, because it's only 2 teams at that point, a week later, roughly. Kind of like what they kind of did the first time. But I've agreed. I forgot which coach it was that was pushing for, I think it was Dan Lanning, talked about maybe having the national championship game in the Rose Bowl every year. And the college season ending on January the 1st. But the problem is the Rose Bowl probably be willing to do that, but there is not a facility that they want for the championship game because of all kinds of amenities that they don't have, that a lot of the modern big time stadiums like the Mercedes Stadium in Atlanta, Mercedes Stadium in AT&T, the AT&T Stadium in Dallas, right on down the line, they have modern facilities in terms of suites, buku suites, et cetera. Because, it has turned into a college football version. It has always been college football version of the Super Bowl. So I want the bowl games. I want the Rose Bowl included in it in some form or fashion, which would mean the championship game probably wouldn't come until a week and a half after New Year's. But if they could get everything done, if they could play the semis on New Year's weekend, I'm all for that and be done after the first week in January.
So again, you are the king. You get to make it how you want it. So there you go.
But that would mean getting rid of the conference championship games. Because here's the thing: you're putting too many players in jeopardy. The problem is not as big as I make it out to be, because only 2 teams would play 4 games, possibly. Just like now, there's a possibility Ohio State had to play 4 games to win it. Indiana only had to play 3 extra games. Incorrect. They had to play in the Big Ten championship game, just like Ohio State did. So they would have all played, if they'd met in the championship game, it would have been their 4th extracurricular game. But you do away with the conference championship games. But I'm on record as saying, why do you have a conference if you don't have a conference champion?
I agree.
So that's where I fall on that. And because 18 teams, you don't play everybody. You don't even come close. So there is no, as I've talked around this, as I've digressed, there is no sure, fast way. If you're giving me a clean slate, there are no conference championship games, just like there used to not be before 1992 in the big time conferences. No conference championship games. You go into the playoff the second week after the end of the regular season, and a week and a half later you play the next round, and then a week and a half later you play the next round, and a week and a half later you play the championship game. So that's how I would do it. How does that sound to you?
When can you take over?
Well, no, everybody's proposed that in some form or fashion. It's just, like I said, you're trying to keep a lot of people happy, including the bowl games. Hey, real quick, last question. Have you tried to monetize what you do?
No.
And by monetize, you know what I mean? I mean real money, not past the plate money at a Southern Baptist church right. After the sermon, depending on how good the sermon was.
I mean, I'm employed by 11 Warriors, but
yeah, gotcha. And I guess you enjoy that affiliation.
Yeah.
See, I'd be all for Ohio State grabbing your services in some form or fashion, because you're invaluable. What you do is invaluable. Nobody else is doing that I know of.
That's very kind of you.
Now, somebody will pop up. They'll see this and pop up and go, what are you talking about? I'm doing it. My mom cooks my dinner every night, and I go upstairs from the basement, and I do it. By the way, your basement, the driving simulator, the racing simulator game in your basement, totally enjoyed that. My F1 Formula One experience there.
And you're welcome anytime. You had
especially
fun.
at
You had fun
Spa.
on the ring.
Especially at Spa Francorchamps, my favorite track in the world. I've never even been there, but I want to get there before it's over. Hey, Matt Gutridge.
I've got some questions for you, though.
Oh, I hope they're quick because we're running over.
All right, they're quick.
I tried to get it to where you couldn't ask me questions.
I know. I'm not doing that.
I'm having to hold my microphone up. My arm's getting tired.
So what do you and World Series champ Clay Buchholz and WWE Hall of Fame wrestler The Undertaker have in common?
Same birthday?
No.
Same good looks and charm, personality?
Think about when you were younger.
Same musculature? Think about when I was younger. They're big Alabama fans?
They could be, but
they were born in Alabama?
You guys all went to the same college.
Oh, I didn't go to the University of Alabama.
You went to Angelina College.
Those guys. Oh, yeah. I knew Clay Buchholz did. I didn't know. I didn't think about that.
So The Undertaker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I did not know The Undertaker went there.
Yeah, The Undertaker went there.
That's pretty damn good research there, brother.
In 83.
Yeah.
And he played basketball for him, had a scholarship. Then he transferred to some other place after, Texas Wesleyan or something.
Yeah, probably.
And Buchholz actually started his career at McNeese State.
Yes.
And he decided to borrow some laptops from a middle school without asking.
Wow.
And then he sold those laptops while on campus.
Wow.
And they said, well, you're not welcome here anymore. So he went to your alma mater.
Angelina College. The Angelina College Roadrunners.
You have any good stories from back then?
Well, I went to, that's where I went into Angelina College. I wanted to be possibly a chemical engineer like my dad or an air traffic controller. I've been infatuated with airplanes my entire life. And I wanted to be in the Air Force as a fighter pilot, but found out my freshman year or my ninth grade, it was actually junior high. In ninth grade, I found out you had to have 20/20 vision to go to the Air Force Academy. And I did not have it, clearly. And kind of lost my ways and means there for a while. And but that's Angelina College where I said, I tried to join the Lufkin High School newspaper in my senior year because I kind of got into. I loved reading sports and especially loved listening to it. And I was never, because like I said, I was 6'2", about 155 pounds my senior year. I was not going to be anybody's edge rusher. But the bottom line is I went to the lady who sponsored the newspaper there for the high school, and she goes, I'm sorry, Tim, you had to have joined the journalism program as a sophomore. I went, oh, you're kidding. And then, of course, 2.5 years later, I was the sports editor of the Lufkin Daily News, the daily newspaper.
So how did you do that?
And because I started my second year in junior college, I said, you know what? You can find yourself, by the way, in these places. I got into journalism, the journalism thing there, and with a bent toward sports writing. And they hired me at the Lufkin News to cover, part-time cover high school football games that fall. And I started doing that. And next thing you know, their sports editor left and they named me the sports editor. It was kind of technically, I was a sports editor, but I was sort of interim because the sports editor who had left 3 years earlier was going to be coming out of the armed forces. He was in Vietnam and he had to be promised his job back when he got back. And he came back and he didn't want to be the sports editor because he wanted to make more money. So he became the news writer, and I became Steve Sinclair was his name, and they made me permanent sports editor. So I did that for 3 years and then moved to Ohio because my parents had moved up here, and I moved up here to finish college, Angelina College. I moved to finish college at The Ohio State University mainly because it was kind of convenient. My parents had moved up here, and I could go to the place I'd been watching on television. Those little bitty snippet games where they would show the highlights on Sundays on ABC. Bill Fleming would narrate, and they'd show the highlights. And I fell in love really with Ohio State and just the whole ambiance of Ohio Stadium and the Big Ten. Because everybody knows me, knows I grew up an Alabama fan in Alabama and stuff.
So what's the bigger game, Iron Bowl or the game?
No, the game. They didn't even play the Iron Bowl for many years because people were beating each other up in the stands and all kinds of things. And without a doubt, the game has decided more championships, probably more national championships, or at least viability for a national championship. And plus 105,000 people one year, 112,000 the next. Always national television since whatever day, whatever it was in the 70s. It's been a high noon game because it's been on television every year since then. May have been before that, for all I know. I remember watching it in 1961. I remember watching that game on our black and white television in Demopolis, Alabama, going, that's pretty cool. But I know I was in first grade, didn't know much about them.
Before you start,
actually, I was in second grade, but I remember that one team had these wide stripes on their helmets. That was the old Ohio State helmets.
Yes.
That had padding. People thought that was just an idea for a stripe for a few years. It actually had padding. We could get into that one time if I get somebody in here about aficionado, about how equipment has changed over the years. But even back then, they knew people were running each other head first and they needed to do something about it. But what they found, I think, was that padding would kind of stick together sometimes. Not what you wanted.
No.
In a twisting, turning situation. But I answered a lot more questions. I put a lot more answer into that question than you had coming. Go ahead now.
And then I've got another thing. Do you recognize this? You came to Ohio in 76, or at least that's when you started with the Dispatch.
Yes.
With 76.
Yeah.
Was it fall of 76, around September-ish?
Yes. Well, I moved up here in August.
Okay. And I'm going to see if you recognize this.
All right.
It was a case of the wake-up call that never came Saturday for the Ohio State Buckeyes. Instead, they were treated to a rude awakening in their own stadium by a bunch of beavers.
That was the first. That would have been the.
And the headline was, Buckeyes turn back beavers.
Yeah. Was that 84?
That is September 9th of 84, which I believe would have been your first recap of an Ohio State.
An Oregon game. State?
Yep. Yeah. Oregon State. Yes, sir.
Well, that wasn't that bad.
No, that's pretty good.
That was pretty good.
I don't want to say award winning.
Yeah. I like that. Cut that out for me and send it to me, would you?
Yeah. Definitely.
I never kept all that stuff. My mom used to get the Dispatch, and after she passed away, I'm up in her closet, and she had this old clip book with all my for many years, all my stories in it. And I was just going, that brought tears to my eyes.
And this is the first one I found as far as with your name as the author. It says, by Tim May, Sports Special to the Dispatch.
Yeah, we always put Special to Dispatch for some reason.
West Jeff breaks football theory and Key Metro win. And that was September 25th, 76. That's the first one I found with your byline on it.
They went to the state championship, I think, that year. What was that legendary coach for West Jeff? But anyway, I remember it was either that year or the year after that. They went and because I helped cover high schools then, and then I got hired full time by the Dispatch in late 77, I think it was.
Gene Keel?
Yeah, Gene Keel. Interesting dude, man. You talk about hard nose. Talk about ugly uniforms like Wyoming's.
Yeah, you talk about special programs and stuff. West Jeff is one of those.
Yes, and he ended up helping coach Hilliard when Hilliard was just one school, I think, at one point. But I remember they went to the state championship. They used to have almost a state championship festival in Akron at the Rubber Bowl.
Yeah,
remember that? And I remember they flew me and Bob Hunter to cover a couple of games up there. They flew. Our paper had our own airplanes, a couple of King Airs. And this big Convair 560 that was converted to only seat like 15 people. But we landed right next to the stadium where the airship, where the blimp hangar is there. Yeah. And it was pretty sweet. And I didn't realize until I covered one of those games that the soapbox derby was always held right next to the stadium. The start line was on a big hill going down. The soapbox derby you'd watch every year on television. I didn't want to get too far down memory lane there, but I'm like I said, I'm an aviation aficionado, and knowing the blimp hangar, forgot which blimp finally was headquartered there, because I got to fly the Goodyear, sit in the pilot seat and fly the Goodyear America blimp. One time it overnighted in Lufkin. It was on its way from I think New Orleans to Dallas, and it didn't need to be in Dallas until later in the week. It might have been going from a football game and for the NFL and the Saints to doing something with the Cowboys, if I remember correctly. But they invited a couple of us media from Lufkin, and my editor of our paper knew I was a big aviation guy because I soloed an airplane when I was 16. But he let me go out and do the story. and they put us in. We chased deer through the woods in East Texas, and it was
with the blimp.
With the blimp, and a blimp. It's hard to crash a blimp. A blimp almost has to be hit by lightning and all just disappear.
The Hindenburg would have a disagreement with you.
Yeah, but that was a snafu of another sort because it had hydrogen, not helium. But the bottom line was, I got to sit in the pilot. And back then, you had to crank this thing, man. The pilots all had big right arms because it was just the crank thing and then you turned it with your feet. You would push the rudder pedal, and like 5 seconds later, it would start to turn. And this was the elevator, if I remember correctly. And so I would do the up and down. You'd turn, and you would put its attitude. You would set its attitude by pulling these levers or these strings, ropes really, that were attached to these air ballast tanks, and they would let air in to make it heavier in these pockets, like a submarine.
Right.
But there, instead of water, they used air because air was heavier than helium. And then you'd pull them back to make it go up, and you'd point the nose up and climb. It was quite the experience. I know everybody just turned off this podcast if they haven't already, but was that fun? But I digress. I'm done. Are you done with your questions?
I have more, but another time.
Ask me one more because I kind of like this, except I won't keep it short.
Okay.
Last one.
I remember you predicting Buster Douglas.
Yes.
To upset Mike Tyson in that famous
Don't
fight.
Don't tell Jeremy Schaap that.
Did you go with Douglas because he was the local guy?
That's what Jeremy Schaap thought.
Or did you truly believe he would win? If so, why?
Number one, I wouldn't have been in Tokyo if Buster Douglas was from Cincinnati or Indianapolis.
Right.
I wouldn't have been there, number one. I'd been covering him his whole career. His manager, John Johnson, I really liked. He's a strange fellow in many ways. He'll even tell you that. But, man, did he give me access to all kinds of stuff. I thank him to this day. Just like Bobby Rahal. Man, he gave me access to stuff that most guys don't get privy. And they didn't really mind if you wrote about it. That's the cool thing. But, I was over in Tokyo because of that. I had seen Buster get in the best shape of his life. He looked like back then he looked like he could have been almost like a Lawrence Taylor kind of guy. But he had the bent of a defensive end, size of a defensive end, sort of outside linebacker. He was like 6'4", about 225, 228 pounds. The best shape of his life, like I said. And I get over there, Tyson is not in the best shape of his life.
You could see it.
Oh, you could see it. He was still in good shape, and he was built. As I told people, I followed him into the ring the night he fought Frank Bruno in Las Vegas for one of those titles. I remember I followed him into the ring just to kind of get a sense of the electricity around a guy like that when he kind of makes his appearance.
There's that buzz.
Down the aisle. You know what I mean? I didn't walk into the ring with him, but I followed him to the ring before I went to my little ringside seat and media. And it was just cool as hell. But the thing that's always stood out to me about Tyson, he was built to throw the uppercut. Built. Came out ready to throw uppercuts. And like I said, if you stay away from the uppercut, like I probably wrote in that story, I think I did. If you stay away from the uppercut, Buster has a great chance of winning this fight. And I predicted it would go 8 rounds and Buster would win. And it went 8 rounds, and Buster was laying flat on his back at basically just before the end of the 8th round, right, when he did not stay away from the uppercut for the first time. Yeah. But Tyson his whole life was in disarray. He had changed corner workers, trainers, etc. He was not in a good mental place or physical place. 5th round of that fight, he's sitting there, and one of his corner workers pulls out a condom and puts ice in it because nobody had brought an inswell for him. That little piece of stainless steel when a guy's eye starts puffing up.
That confident he was going to win.
Scrub it down. Oh yeah, yeah. Everybody was confident he was going to win, not just his corner. And but anyway, yeah, Buster beat him up, and then couldn't stay away from the up. Didn't kind of laxed one time. Buster was on the thing. He goes like that one time, like, gosh, dang it, And he gets up at the count of 8, which is what his dad told him always to do. Take as long as possible down, gather your wits, get up. 9th round was the best round of heavyweight boxing I ever saw in my life live. Tyson came out to end it. Buster took it all and then started beating him up again. In 10th round, obviously the knockout.
Right.
And it was crazy. But it was funny because Evander Holyfield was at that fight. He'd come in with Dan Duva, his manager, and Shelly Finkel, they're sort of their general manager kind of guy because they had flown in with Trump. I don't know if they flew in with Trump, but Trump was there because they were going to have the Holyfield Tyson fight in a couple of months later, either at the Taj Mahal or the Trump, whatever it was, International, whatever it was called in Atlantic City. And they announced it the night before. And I went up to Dan Duva and Shelly Finkel after the announcement. I said, that's all well and good, but let me ask you, if Buster wins, does he get the same deal? And they both started laughing. And they go, that's not going to happen. And whatever. So 5th round, here's Dan Duva sitting right next to Evander Holyfield right there from me. I'm on the 3rd row. They're in the 2nd row. And all of a sudden, Dan Duva, Tokyo Dome's non-smoking. Dan Duva has lit up a heater, and he's walking back and forth next to me on the aisle. And he's going, this
isn't happening.
This isn't happening. This can't be happening. Whatever. And I wanted, this isn't real. This isn't real. This can't be real. And I wanted to grab him. He said, you better believe it's real. I wanted to grab him and say that, but I didn't. Meanwhile, Evander just sat there and calmly watched the fight. But anyway, I have proof that I did pick Buster along with that story because Jeremy Schaap left me out. And people told me he was on the Dan Patrick show because in that 42-1 documentary he did, he interviewed me extensively for it. And asked me the same thing you're asking me, but he uses this line because they wanted to leave it just the cab driver is the only guy that knew it was going to happen. Anyway, and he said, well, did anybody else pick it? And then Jeremy Schaap supposedly said, well, Tim May did it, but he was a reporter from
so he doesn't
from
count.
Buster's hometown, so he doesn't count. So he didn't say he doesn't count, but I remember I never actually saw the clip, but I was told what he said, and that really made me mad. Because number one, I'd given him a lot of time on the thing and stuff because there were other things done. But I was doing interviews over in Japan and with TV guys because they had no idea who Buster was, And I'll never forget, after the fight, I'm sitting there and I'm typing. I'm right there ringside again. We've already had the press conferences. There was even a fight in the press conference by 2 writers. That's neither here nor there. And I'm sitting there and I feel this presence on my right here. And I finally look up, and it's a Japanese TV reporter who I'd given an interview with 2 days before the fight. And he sees me make eye contact, and he starts bowing. He goes, you're Mr. May. You pick Douglas. You pick winner. And I said, yeah. And he pulls out his card, and he slaps it on the table right there. And he goes, later, you, me, we drink. And I go, man, I appreciate it. But I got a bunch of stories to write here, man. I'm on deadline. He goes, oh, excuse me. And he left. But at least somebody knew how to treat me.
Oh, that's awesome.
At least somebody knew how to treat me.
You brushed that over. 2 guys got in a fight in the press row.
Yeah, but I mean, it was just no. They were in the press conference. It was 2 guys. One was considered sort of a semi-shill for Don King, known Don King forever, and another guy was telling him to shut up because everybody was claiming the 8th round the count was too long, the long 8 in the 8th. And, but what was it? Octavio Mayron, the referee did what he did because Tyson didn't immediately go to a neutral corner.
Right.
And so he directed him to neutral corner and he picked up the count. And, it is what it is. But yeah, they tried to get the thing annulled and all that kind of stuff. And, thank God the WBA, WBC, and what was the other one?
Is it an IF?
WNBC. That's from Howard Stern's show.
Yes.
Whatever they were. No, was WW and then another one. IBF. Yeah, International Boxing Federation. They all stood by it. Buster came home with the big belt and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, yeah, we've wasted enough time on me.
It's your show.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
No,
ladies and gentlemen, Matt Gutridge, thanks for joining me again. We'll get an update from you middle of the football season, see how things are going. Maybe, bring you on, especially because, barring injury, Jeremiah Smith's going to do a lot of big things this year. Because still a lot of big numbers, and he's just his 3rd season. Real quick before you go, I'll put you on the spot. Everybody always asks me this. Who do you think's the best receivers ever played at Ohio State to date? You know what you ought to say? Chris Henry Jr. He hadn't played yet.
He hasn't played yet. He could be.
Brock Boyd. He hasn't played yet.
I'm going to stay with Carter. I'm going to stay with Carter until the season is over. And it's hard. I mean, you can't go wrong with Carter. You can't go wrong. Anybody you could go with. You can make an argument for Terry Glenn. You can make an
yeah.
I mean, any of the guys you can make an argument for.
Yeah.
The safe answer is Chris Carter.
Trivia question. Here's a trivia question for you. No, not here's a trivia point because we've gone long enough. Chris Carter's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Got the gold jacket. You know what he's not in?
No.
The College Football Hall of Fame. Because obviously he played 3 seasons. That's all people play anymore. And then going into the 87 season, it was found, obviously.
The agent thing, yeah.
The agent thing. And it came, if he could have paid some of the money back, he could have gotten to play, but Ohio State washed their hands of him after they found him to have been in cahoots, with the agents and stuff. But, nobody who's very good anymore, for the most part, can be taken big time, stays more than 3 seasons. But that's no reason for Chris Carter not to be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I
think O.J. Simpson's in the Hall of Fame.
Over under, will you be in 10 years or less?
Chris Carter?
Yeah.
He should be in next year or year after next, the way I look at it, because I'm going to start the campaign. Because that's an oversight. Because he had huge numbers. You can look at your numbers right there on your annals. Almost called it something else.
And especially.
But isn't that amazing? He's not in the Hall. Dude, the numbers he threw up at Ohio State in 3 seasons, Ohio State had never seen those numbers before.
No.
Correct?
Correct.
Throw up his numbers there real quick.
Yeah. So if you want just over 3 years, we'll just do a 3-year career. The only guy better than him over 3 years is David Boston.
Yeah.
David Boston had 2,855 yards, 191 receptions. Carter, 2,725 yards, 168 receptions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Carter was the vanguard, as they say, the guy who led the charge through the gates of hell.
And he played in the era too that it wasn't the passing,
Right.
I mean, not to discredit Carsados and those guys, but the game was different under Earl Bruce.
Yes. But it was much different under Earl Bruce than it was under Woody. That is for damn sure.
Well, yes.
They did throw the ball a lot more. Jim Carsados, even Mike Tomczak, right on down the line, they did open it up a lot more. White Lightning played then, and all those guys. So, that's a little trivia for you. So with that said, Matt Gutridge, you got to get home, man. We're finishing this off at about rush hour, so it should help you get a head start.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Tim. No, it's been a big honor to be here with you. Like I said, I grew up reading you. You're one of the best in Columbus. And when I was a kid, I got to deliver your paper.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And then I go home and read everything that you had.
Yeah. And what does that paper say? You're supposed to read what I wrote. You almost read it all. And you're the most handsome guy ever.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry.
I've ever seen on a podcast.
You're the most handsome guy, not just podcast, just period, ever.
We'll leave it at that, ladies and gentlemen. Until next time, this is Tim May for Matt Gutridge. We'll see you then.